Hey everyone, Jen Cherkis here, and I'm so excited to share this fun motorcycle love card with you guys. I think it's great for Father's Day or anybody that loves to get on a bike and ride the open air. So I'm going to be using some new Honeybee Stamps, Dad's Garage, Take a Ride, the new stencil, which I love this stencil called Diamond Plate. I got to add a little bling on here, even if I do end up giving this to my dad. So this is the Adventure Awaits gem stickers. And then I am going to use some pattern paper from the Adventure Awaits paper pad. So I am going to start by ink blending a background with carved pumpkin distress ink. This is ink blending on distress white heavy stock. It's my favorite paper to do any ink blending on. I think you get a really nice smooth blend. I'm working right on top of my desktop, which is made out of glass. I think working on a glass surface when you're ink blending also helps you get a really nice smooth blend. And you will notice I start blending way off on my table, and then I bring the blender brush into the paper again to help you get a nice soft blend, because usually that's what you want, right? I'm using the Honeybee Stamps, the bigger blending brushes. I love these bigger blending brushes when you're doing a whole background like this. It just gives you a really easy blend. It happens fairly quickly, um, and helps you get a nice smooth blend. I sound like a broken record. So I'm just cleaning off my tabletop with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a flour sackcloth. And now I'm going to use my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. I'm going to use a little bit of Tombow removable adhesive to hold my background in place on this magnetic board. The magnetic board has these large magnets, but when I'm wanting to stencil over a whole background, I let the magnets concentrate on holding the stencil together instead of the background. So now I can assure that my paper is not going to move. I'm going to get my diamond plate stencil in place. Really, there's no right or wrong way. I just wanted to make sure I had room for the stencils, for the magnets to hold on to the stencil. And now I'm going to use black soot distress ink. And I'm just going to make sure that I fill this all in nice and black and dark and crisp. And so I'm going to do a lot of ink blending here to fill in the whole stencil. And what's great about using this magnetic board is you don't have to worry about taping down your stencil. You can make sure, you can move the magnets around. It's just quick and easy. It's my favorite tool for when I want to stencil. I literally love it so much. So now that I have the whole stencil all filled in, I am going to take the stencil off, which is the exciting part. Love it. So fun. And now I'm going to use that isopropyl alcohol in a mister bottle again. And I'm going to wipe my stencil and my magnetic board with my flour sackcloth, as well as my table space. Make sure there's no black soot distress ink left behind, because we all know that could cause a problem later. So now I'm going to use the Dad's Garage stamp set. I'm going to pick out a few of the images that I know I want to stamp and have on my card. I'm definitely going to be using the motorcycle, and then I just picked out kind of the emblem images. I wasn't quite even sure I was going to use all of them on the card at the end, but I wanted to make sure that I had them stamped and colored so I'd have them ready. I'm using the Honeybee Stamps Inktense Black because I am going to be coloring with my Copic markers, which are alcohol-based markers. And the coloring is just going to be using a variety of toner grays. So from T8 to T0, T8, T6, T4, T2, T0. And when I have an image like this that is a little bit more complicated, I kind of had to keep taking a step back and looking at it to see which was parts of the bike, which was seeing through to the other side. Um, I'm just taking it baby steps. I just pick an area, I start coloring it in with a couple grays just to add some dimension, and I don't get overwhelmed with coloring the whole image at once. I'm just focusing on little places here and there. So I started kind of on the gas part and the tailpipe. I should know the names of all of these things. My dad has a Harley Davidson and I grew up riding with him. But yeah, I haven't been on a bike in a long time. So and now I am coloring the tires. I did use two grays for the tires, but I'm going to end up using a Sakura black glaze pen on them to kind of add some shine. So I really could have just colored them with one gray, or honestly not at all, because the black glaze pen is an opaque glaze pen. So I really wanted this image to be in grayscale, um, because I really want it to stand out on the background that I just ink blended. And then I also am going to add some pops of color to the three emblems that you see above. So a lot of the times when I don't want my image to take away from the rest of the card, I will do a grayscale, which I think looks really nice. Of course, this is a fun image, so you could color it to be the color of the motorcycle, um, of whoever you're giving this card to. I did say this could be a Father's Day card, but I also know there's a lot of females out there that ride bikes. So really that you can color this motorcycle any color that you want. My dad's bike just so happens to be teal, which is amazing. He got it before my obsession with teal began, but now it just makes it all the better. So I am working on finishing up the bike here. During Father's Day week in New Hampshire, which is the state I grew up in, there's a big motorcycle rally in Laconia, New Hampshire. So I grew up going to that with my dad and riding around and then parking the bike and people watching. And it's a lot of fun. And it's really cool to see all the different bikes, and people are so passionate about them and they take care of them so well. And all the different years, older bikes, new bikes. People will dress up in costume. It's a fun time. So if you're ever in the New England area around Father's Day weekend, head up to the Lakes region in New Hampshire and you can see for yourself. So you can see here I'm coloring the emblems, and I'm sticking to kind of that classic Harley Davidson colors of orange and black. So I'm using a variety of oranges, of YRs and Ys, to color in and add dimension to these emblems. And then I'm also mimicking the same toner grays whenever I am bringing in any gray or black elements. Every time I watch my coloring all sped up like this, I always wish that coloring was this fast, but it's not. I actually enjoy coloring, so it's okay that it takes a little bit longer. I've started to get into a habit of not capping my markers when I am blending between two colors that you saw I just did with my yellow. I know that with a yellow and a light pink, um, oranges, I'm going to want to go back in and add some dimension after I finish blending in the image. And so I've gotten into a habit of leaving that darker marker uncapped sitting next to me. And so as I finish blending, I can pop right back to that darker color and add a little bit more dimension in while the cardstock is still damp from blending. That extra dimension I'm adding in is going to soak into the paper and usually doesn't need to be blended again. So it's kind of an easy way to add some more dimension in. And there we go. We've got all of this all colored. So I'm cutting the images into smaller snippets so I can add the coordinating dies to these. And I'm using the best ever craft tape, just a low tack tape to hold the dies in place. I apologize, I forgot I was zoomed in to do the coloring and I did not zoom out. But I still think you're seeing enough of what I'm doing that it wasn't lost on the tutorial here. So I'm adding some best ever craft tape, some low tack tape to hold the dies in place. And then I'm going to use the Honeybee Stamps die cut machine to die cut these. This is where you're going to miss it a little bit, but then I realize that I'm off camera and I zoom back out when I go to stamp to sentiment. Yep, there we go. I was like, oops. So when I start to take the dies off of the images, I'm just starting to place them down on this background so I can get my creative juices flowing, get some ideas going on how I'm going to lay out this card, because I actually really have no idea. I just knew the supplies that I wanted to use. So now I'm going to use the Take a Ride sentiment set to stamp a sentiment. And what I love about this sentiment set is it has a great variety of sentiments, from retirement to birthday, to Father's Day, to just inspirational or encouragement. And I just love sets like that. And of course, I love a good coordinating die set for the sentiments. So now that I have all my little pieces that I know that are going to be part of the card, I also knew I wanted to use this pattern paper from the Adventure Awaits paper pad. I just liked it. I like the speckle. It kind of looks almost like an evening sky with the stars falling, but it also was just a really nice texture. So I am trimming this down to be 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just taking that removable adhesive off of my stenciled background. And now I'm just trying to decide, like, am I going to put it on the back? Am I going to just use a little piece of this stencil? And I think I've determined I'm just going to do a little piece for the motorcycle to sit on. I'll save that other big piece for another card on another day, but this gives a place for kind of that motorcycle to sit. And now you can see how my brain works. I'm like, okay, well, where am I going to put everything else? And so I'm trying to make that decision. And I'm moving things all around. Are they going to go tucked behind the bike? Are they going to go across the top? Are they going to go up the right side? And I determined that I liked them going up the left side with the sentiment kind of off. And so I got some black cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to mat that pattern paper on there. Just gives it a little slight border. I'm adding my stenciled little strip. And then I am going to put my bike in place, but I'm going to start adding my emblems because I knew I wanted them to kind of tuck in behind the bike and tuck in behind each other. And I'm using some black foam squares. These are really nice when you do have a really dark card and you don't want any extra white to show. And on the motorcycle, I'm going to add some foam, but then I'm also going to add a little glue tube on the parts of the bike that are going to touch on that emblem, on that circular emblem, so that it's all in place nice. And of course, I'm going to pop up the sentiment. I like to pop up all the things. These little squares are great to just cut in half if you need to get into the skinnier areas. And I'm just kind of figuring out where I want to tuck that in. And then last but not least, we're going to add a little bit of bling. Again, I'm probably going to give this card to my dad, so I do want to keep it kind of masculine, but I think a little bling never hurts anyone. So I'm adding a few gems from the Adventure Awaits gem set. And now I'm going to use that Sakura black glaze pen. Anytime I use this black glaze pen, I roll the tip of the pen on some scratch paper, which you saw I just did on the left, because it kind of builds a film onto the tip of the pen. Now, this black glaze pen is a nice detailed pen. However, the ink does flow out of the tip a little bit more fluidly than their white gel pens or the Sakura Quickie Glue pen. So just keep that in mind. You can't do really, really fine detail, or I have found that I can't do really, really fine detail because it will kind of blob out and essentially ruin your image. So I'm just highlighting different parts of the motorcycle with the black lace pen to give it a little shine, a little texture, and there we go. You are legendary. A perfect card for me to give my dad for Father's Day, but a perfect card to give any friend that loves to hop on their motorcycle. I hope you enjoyed this card today, and I will be back soon sharing some more inspiration. Bye, guys.